Hi everybody, welcome to week 3 in Humanities 103 Mythology. Well, that picture right there gives you a big hint as to what we are going to start studying this week. But before we do that, let's just review really quickly the definition of myth that we have established here in the first 2 weeks of class. So from this minute forward, this is what we are working off of when we think of myth, right? So an ancient narrative that involves the relationship of humans and gods or deities that attempts to answer the enduring and fundamental human questions, such as, who am I? What is the nature of the universe? What do I have to do to survive? What do I have to do to be successful, to have a satisfying life? How can I reconcile myself to the inevitability of aging, of death, of sickness, and the biggie, what happens to me after I die? Okay, so that's just a small sample of the types of questions that myths address. This week and next week, we're going to look at pantheons. So to get started, a pantheon, it's a group of gods, not just one, a group of gods, especially the officially recognized gods or deities of a particular culture. So the really interesting thing about pantheons is they give us this window into what a particular culture valued or prioritized or how they were structured socially. Because think about it, it's a culture or a society that invents their pantheon. So by looking at this group of deities, we can determine, was this culture very patriarchal? Was it more matrilineal or matriarchal? Depending on the relationships among the deities. So, especially in Greek and Roman mythology, which a lot of you are very familiar with, that there are certain gods and goddesses that are married to each other, and then they have certain offspring, and then they beget children with mortals. And so we have some people that are sort of half mortal, half deity. So all these really interesting relationships help us know what a culture's like. Also, what those deities represent or how they function. So an example would be a culture that has a lot of members of their pantheon that are geared toward helping out warriors, helping warriors in battle, taking care of warriors after they are killed in battle. So that's a huge clue that this particular culture experienced a lot of conflict or was involved in a lot of warfare, that was a big part of who they were. And so they had to create these deities that would help them out in that aspect of their culture. When you go to the readings, you'll see that the very first one is a Wikipedia article that defines pantheon, and I really want you to read it carefully, and there is a section in there that goes into detail about how we can infer information or attributes of a culture by looking at their pantheon. And you'll need to know that for an upcoming major assignment. Here's a quick look at your course schedule for this week. You'll see there the week 3 overview, which you are currently watching. We're now in module 2, and your work for the week, besides the readings and videos, is a discussion post that's titled Analyzing a Pantheon. Here is your work for the week. There is that article that I mentioned before, the definition of pantheons. Next, we have a list of pantheons. So when you click on that, you will see a long list of different pantheons such as Greek, Roman, Mayan, Egyptian, and so on. I would like you to choose 2 of those off the list and read them in detail. Then there are 2 videos for you, pantheons of the ancient Mediterranean and the Norse pantheon. That one, Gods and Goddesses of the Greek and Roman pantheon, is a really interesting short online article that compares the gods and goddesses from Greek mythology to Roman. So the Greeks came first in the historical timeline, and they are the ones that we, hear a lot about, Zeus, Athena, and so on. Down the road, the Romans were very much aware of those same gods and goddesses, and they really just kind of co-opted them. They renamed them, but in most regards, they really are pretty much the same. And so this article gives you that comparison, and all of those are names that you're going to recognize. You might not have realized that some of them were Greek and some of them were Roman, and that they really are the same deity. And then, of course, discussion number 3. Here is your discussion. So go back to that list of pantheons and now choose one. It can be one of the 2 that you read, or you might choose a third one if one of those kind of stands out and looks interesting to you. And you're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. So within that pantheon that you choose from the list, I want you to pick out 3 of the deities or mythological characters to put under the microscope. For each of those, you're going to list their name, and some of them might have more than one name. You're going to list the attributes or important characteristics that are associated with that particular deity. You're going to describe the roles or functions that that deity or character plays or performs in that particular culture. And then I want you to do a little thumbnail analysis. So after you've looked at those attributes and roles, what do you think that indicates about that culture that they are produced by? Okay? So do that for 3 different deities, gods or goddesses. And please format it in a way so it's very clear, what you're writing, what you're describing about each one. So it's really clear and easy to use. Please use headings for that. So that's the reading response portion. For the peer response, you're going to respond to 3 other people. Ideally, the people who have posted above you. Remember, if you're one of the very, very first ones to post, you're going to have to wait until a few people have posted so that you have other people to respond to. I want you to look at the deities that they have described, pick out one that is perhaps similar to one that you had, maybe similar in its functions or roles. I want you to do a thumbnail description of how they are similar and how they are different. How are the roles of each of those characters in their culture similar or different from the role they play in yours? So I want you to do a comparison and contrast between one of your deities and one of theirs. In the discussion post instructions, I've given you a fairly lengthy example of how that might look. So please go back to that discussion post instructions and read that example, and read through the instructions one more time to make sure you understand them completely. All right, that is your work for the week. That should be fun and interesting for you. Remember, I have chat office hours every Tuesday between 10 and 12. You can just post your question and I will be monitoring the chat so that I can get right back to you. If you have a question about course content or Canvas, be sure to post it in the Ask the Instructor discussion forum. Or if it's more personal, you can contact me at rgoodrich.wsu.edu. All right. Well, I hope you have fun with this, and I look forward to reading your discussion posts. Have a great week.